guys, it's Ira Prairie Girl. I'm coming to you from my neighbor's prairie. This is a restored prairie, meaning that it used to be cropland, and 4 or 5 years ago they replanted it and put it into prairie. So let's talk prairie for a minute. Prairies are essential. They provide habitat and food for birds, butterflies, insects, reptiles, small animals, and not only just during the summertime, but think about it. Prairies provide shelter and food throughout the whole year. In the dead of winter, you can come out to a prairie and you'll find little mammals scurrying around, or you'll see their tracks. So prairies are just essential. Other things that prairies do is that they have deep roots, and they're drought resistant, and those roots go deep down into the ground, 6, 8 to 10 feet deep, and they can seek out moisture during a drought and keep the plant growing and keep the prairie alive. And those roots also are essential for erosion. So planting a prairie also helps the water quality around us. So if you stick around, today we're going to take a look at a plant that does all those things that I just said. And not only that, but it also provides just a beautiful splash of purple across the prairie. So stick around and we're going to take a look at purple prairie clover. So here I have purple prairie clover in front of me. You know, prairies are tough places. They're wide open, you're out in the wind, you're exposed to the sun the whole time, and this is a tough plant. They like dry prairies, they like roadsides. You'll find them on roadsides or in a field or a meadow that's kind of dry, and they tolerate full sun. They don't really like the shade. So you can see this purple flower in front of me. Like I said, it adds a real certain splash to the prairie. So if we take a look at the plant itself, it comes up in erect stems, and it kind of gives a bushy appearance. You can have about 8 to 10 stems coming up out of a plant. And then from that they branch off and they have this flower. And is that flower right in front of my screen? Is that going to look cool or not? The wind just blew a cylinder of a purple prairie into the screen. I'll see how that looks. So if you have that close up there, it has this spike-like cylinder where the flowers bloom. And so they start blooming at the bottom of the base of the cylinder, and they kind of go up in a wreath. So you can tell how far along this plant is in its bloom. They start blooming here in Iowa. I am in the northern county of Iowa. They start blooming here June through August. They bloom for about a month and a half. And like I said, they start at the base of this cylinder. This cylinder is about, and it all varies. This plant in front of me has some real short ones, and it has a real long one. So they're around a half to an inch and a half long, and they start blooming around the base. And so you'll have these purple flowers start at the base like a wreath around the bottom. And the flower itself has 5 heart-shaped petals, and those petals vary in color from a purple to a rose to a pinkish color. You know, I tried to look up to see how many flowers are on a purple prairie clover, and I couldn't find that out. I don't know if anyone's, I'm certain someone has at one point in time taken time to count. But the flowers go around the base. And like I said, there's 5 petals, and then as those finish blooming, then they go further up. And so this one in front of me, you can see, or maybe you can't see, but it is an inch and a half long, and the flowers that are now blooming are towards the very tip. So this one has been blooming for a while. The other thing that's really cool about purple prairie clover is their yellow, golden, orangish yellow anthers and stamens. They really add color to a picture. If you take a picture of purple prairie clover, not only do you get the purple petals, but you also get the bright orange anthers, and then the tips are yellow stamens. So that really adds color to the flower. And then you have the gray part. The gray part is the calyx. So the calyx is the cluster of sepals, and the sepals are like the the buds that are the coverings that go around a bud before they bloom. So this gray part here, these are what's covering up the next bloom. And so I got flat bugs buzzing around me. So this gray part here hasn't bloomed yet. It's covering up the next bloom that's going to come. If we take a minute to talk about the leaves are very, very small. They're about 1 inch long and about 1/8 of an inch wide. And they grow alternate on the stem. That means they go every other. And they kind of come up in 3 to 7 clusters of leaflets. So they're real small. The only other plant that's similar to this purple prairie clover, and purple prairie clover is very easy to identify, it's probably one of the easiest ones out in the prairie. The only other plant that's similar to this is white prairie clover, and I'll include a couple pictures of the white clover. Their leaves, one of the difference between the two is their leaves. The white prairie clover, the leaves are larger. Now let me tell you how much larger they are. So I said that this is these are about 1 inch long and about 1/8 of an inch wide. On white clover, the leaf is about 1.5 inches long and about 1/4 of an inch wide. So that's the difference between the leaf, between the white and the purple clover. So before the plant blooms, they're really pretty hard to distinguish between the two because the leaf size is about the only difference between them. But then of course when they do bloom, it's pretty obvious. You've got the white, and the white actually has a green calyx, so the cylinder looks green, whereas you have the purple with the gray calyx. Purple prairie clover doesn't have any scent, but that doesn't mean that the bees and the butterflies don't find them. They're all over the place right now, gathering pollen and nectar from these plants. The other neat thing about purple prairie clover, prairies don't require fertilization, and purple prairie clover adds nitrogen to the prairie, so that's a really neat quality about this plant. The other thing is that it's very palatable to animals. Livestock, sheep, goats, deer, turkeys, they all find purple prairie clover very edible, and it also has protein. And so the one downfall about purple prairie clover is that it can actually be overgrazed, and it will then be eradicated from your prairie because the animals like to eat it so well. It also has some neat seed cups that in the wintertime, they're often found in the dens of rodents. They carry them down and use them for nutrition during the wintertime. So the seeds are eaten by birds and small animals. So purple prairie clover, there is some medicinal uses for it. I did read that the Indians or the Native Americans would make like a poultice for it and put it into and use it to clean wounds. And then also the erect stems were often gathered and dried, and they were used for brooms. But other than that, there's not a lot to say about purple prairie clover for any kind of folklore or anything like that. But it really is just a really brilliant purple flower with those bright orange anthers that really add some display to the prairie. So this is the Iowa Prairie Girl. I'm down here in the prairie. I hope you enjoyed my video. Please feel free to share my video, subscribe to my YouTube channel. And once again, as always, I encourage you to get out, explore nature, and I hope that you see something wonderful. Thanks for watching.